All right, we are just waiting for people to join us for this very special Facebook Live. As you guys come on, you can, just leave your name in the comments, where you're from, what part of the upstate you're from, or if you're outside of the upstate, then leave that as well. We just love to know who we have with us and where you're at. So, in this special Facebook Live, you're going to be hearing a powerful story of pain and redemption, and it's going to hopefully encourage you to become active in a very important fight. So please just stay tuned. We will be getting started here in just a second, and we just really encourage you to share this with your friends, your family. Just go ahead and send this out to your network and let people know, hey, it looks like somebody's here. Go ahead and just drop your name in the comments. Love to know who's with us. And, just join in with us. Let us know who you are, where you're from. And that would just be amazing if you could do that. In the meantime, if anybody, lets us know, there's Dakota. Hey, Dakota, thank you so much for being a part of this. Dakota Fitzgerald, one of our very special advocates in this area. Dakota fights fiercely for this topic, and you'll learn more about what that topic is in just a moment. So thank you so much, Dakota, for being a friend, a volunteer. You do your own work, and so you're just awesome. So Astrid Olson, awesome. Drew's aunt, hey, there you go. Drew's got family. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Astrid, so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. For the rest of you, anybody else coming on, we're going to get started in just under 3 minutes. And we're really excited that you guys and gals are here with us. This is going to be a great conversation that we're going to have with Drew Merritt from Switch, myself, Richard Aronson from Switch, and our very, very special guest who we'll introduce to you in just a moment. So again, for those who are with us, just drop your name, where you're from in the comments. Would love to know that. Also, what you know about trafficking. Have you been involved at all? Have you in the fight, of course, have you been involved? What have you seen? How have you been involved? Any comments you have would be great. Would love to hear from you that way. And so we may have some technical difficulties throughout the program. Our very, very special guest seems to be having some internet challenges. So if that happens, we'll just bring her back in, and we'll just, it'll be okay. We'll just make it work. So you'll just, if everyone could just deal with any of those technical challenges that we might have, that would be great. This is live. This is on Facebook. So there's always something interesting that happens. Yeah, that's right, Dakota. Dakota says, thank you. Together, we are the solution. And for anyone experiencing hardship, you are not alone. We are with you. That is absolutely the truth. 100%. Thank you so much for saying that. We have Ann Jordan, and I'm going to say her last name wrong, Kellett. So thank you so much for joining us, and really, really appreciate you being here. We're excited to get this started. In just a minute, we'll be jumping into this, and it's just going to be a great conversation. And so, again, if you guys could just, kind of share this out to your friends and family, and we just want to get as many people as possible involved in this program as we can. We're so excited to share the story with from our very special guest. So, and she will be joining us in just 30 seconds. So, anybody else who is with us, drop your name, where you're from down in the comments. Would love to know who's with us, and just have you, share with everybody else. We are the community here, and together, when we fight this together, we can overcome this darkness. And sex trafficking and sexual exploitation is that. It is a darkness. And with that, I would just like to kind of start this off by saying hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. I really am excited about this very special Facebook Live. I am Richard Aronson, like it says right down there. I'm Richard Aronson, the executive director here at Switch, where our mission is to eradicate sex trafficking and sexual exploitation in the upstate of South Carolina. This is a very important battle that we're fighting, and this discussion is just another part in that. So what I want to do is introduce our two special guests. So we have two amazing guests, one of them from our own staff here at Switch, and the other one very special guest. So let me bring them on here with us. So we have today on the far side of the screen, Drew Merritt, our very own demand coordinator, and you're going to hear from Drew in just a second. But then also with us, very special, and the reason we're doing this is Teresa J. Helm. Teresa, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi to you, Richard and Drew, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So you're going to hear more from Teresa in just a second. But before we go into her story, Drew, I'm just going to let you go ahead and share a little bit. So if you don't mind, please just go ahead and take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Richard, for having me. I wrote everything I wrote it down, what I wanted to say, so I can make sure I get the words out correctly. But my name is Drew Merritt, and I'm the demand coordinator with Switch. So our goal with the demand program is to educate the public on what sex trafficking looks like and how we can solve it. We also seek to change the laws so that South Carolina will be free of exploitation. Currently, right now, for solicitation in the state of South Carolina, it's about a $200 fine and possible jail time. You'll get more punishment for littering than for solicitation, which is sex buying. So, but also we seek to shift the mindset that would allow sex trafficking to thrive in the upstate. So that means going to colleges, working possibly with kids and doing mentoring processes, but just really shifting that mindset that would cause somebody to want to buy and to exploit. But I'm excited now to introduce Teresa. She's a childhood sexual abuse survivor. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sarah Kellen survivor also. And Teresa's story began as heartbreak, and she has shifted that to empowerment. Teresa was a victim of child sexual abuse beginning at only 8 years old. She was later trafficked by Sarah Kellen and Ghislaine Maxwell, which led to her being trafficked and assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein. These experiences have led her to her lifetime purpose in the education, awareness, and prevention of trafficking and abuse. Teresa, we've been friends on Facebook for a while now, so I just want you to know that I honor your voice so much and I appreciate everything you do. And it really is a privilege for us to have you on this Facebook Live. And I believe it's so important that we as an organization, we continue to honor survivors and we continue to elevate their voices. So Teresa, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Drew. And again, it's a pleasure to be alongside each of you strong, brave men and your organization. And my name is Teresa J. Helm. I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I am a survivor of Sarah Kellen, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein. And I will go ahead and share a bit about my story. So coming from a background of childhood sexual abuse, that lasted 3.5 years. And that really set the tone as far as there was a lot of struggle during which, of course, and after the fact, growing up throughout my teens, from what I experienced. And I think one important thing I will focus on is that I had reached out for help at a young age, and the help just didn't really come through. And there got to be a point where I ended up, through various circumstances, having to protect my abuser. So that really added additional layers of trauma and abuse that it was very difficult to understand at such a young age. And it certainly has taken a lot of processing and a healing journey on that. And moving forward to being a young adult, I was 22 years old. And at that point in my life, I certainly had big dreams, big hopes, and a lot of determination to try to make myself something, and be something and travel and explore. And those are all things that were very appealing to me. And at the age of 22, I had decided that I would like to move to California and, you know, live with the palm trees and really I went to massage therapy school in California. I transferred out there. And I spent a lot of time at the school because I was working there full time and I was a student full time. So I felt like I practically lived there. And there was a day that there was a girl that approached me. And this girl said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you. Would you like to hear about it? It's a private traveling massage therapy job." And when you're, at least in my case, 22 years old, there are no limits to what I feel like I could do with my career as a massage therapist. So when I'm proposed with a traveling massage therapy job, I was very much interested. So this girl then gave me contact information to another girl. And this girl, her name was Sarah Kellen. And I made arrangements to meet Sarah Kellen at the beach there in Santa Monica, California. And I arrived and she met me outside. And Sarah and I walked along the Santa Monica boardwalk for quite a long time. She shared with me what this position would look like, traveling the world, being a massage therapist to a very successful, wealthy woman that she referred to as Miss Maxwell. So her and I discussed the education that I would receive from all the best universities around the world. Her and I discussed the airplane that I would be traveling on a regular basis with Miss Maxwell. She discussed the people I would meet, the chef that would travel with us. And again, everything that she said to me was like a dream come true, at least in my mind at the time. And Sarah was a girl who was very kind to me, very nice. She resembled me as far as age and hair color and body type even. So she was a girl that I felt comfortable and safe around. I didn't have any reason to believe that she was setting me up for anything harmful. And, there was a point in our conversation where Sarah had said to me, imagine everything you could possibly imagine this, dream job to be. And I took a moment to imagine that in my mind. To me, my mind is very vivid, my imagination. So I thought that I had the best of the best scenario worked out in my mind. And something that Sarah said to me that will never, ever be forgotten in the impact that made on me was, Teresa, everything that you're imagining right now, your job with Miss Maxwell is so much more. It's way more than that. It's way more than you could possibly imagine. And I just was not expecting her to say that to me. So it really made an impact as to the magnitude of the position that I was looking like I was going to be set up to interview for. So Sarah really expressed and really laid the groundwork for me to be completely, utterly excited and thrilled and grateful even. I felt blessed. I felt like this was meant to be, that this was the dream of a lifetime. This is what, in my mind, this is what it was all for. This is what everything I've ever done, everything I've ever been through, it's for this time, this moment. So our interview, which is basically what it was, came to an end. However, before I left, she asked me to take, if she could take a photo of me. And I allowed her. And there was a moment where I felt like I was sizing myself up. So I was hoping that I was good enough, that I came across as good enough, because I thought she was taking a photo of me so that she could send it to Miss Maxwell, and Miss Maxwell would approve of me. So that's an important factor, looking back, is how I was sizing myself up, hoping I was good enough. Not too long later, I'm off. I have flight travel arrangements arranged for me by Miss Maxwell's assistant, and off I go from Los Angeles to New York City. I arrived in New York City, and everything that I was told was happening, that I would have a driver at the airport waiting for me with my name on it, with a sign with my name on it, which there was a driver at the airport with a sign with my name on it. And that was very significant to me. That was hugely significant. In fact, I felt very special. I felt very blessed. Again, I felt very tended to and cared for, very much so looked after. So I was then taken to where I was to stay, which was an apartment building. And within that apartment building, I got to the unit I was staying in, and there was, a gift basket on the kitchen counter of fruit and cookies. And there was yogurt in the refrigerator. And so again, those were indications to me that Miss Maxwell, this woman that I was going to be interviewing with, for this massage therapy job to travel the world. So these were all indicators to me that she cared, that she wanted me to feel comfortable and cared about, and again, tended to. And that's exactly how I felt. So I arrived to her home at the time that I was supposed to meet her. It's a beautiful home. It's stunning, actually. And, I'm noticing all types of details as I'm walking into her home, and I was asked to go upstairs where she would be. And, at the top of the stairs, there's a butler there holding a silver tray. And I'm kind of laughing in my mind a bit, because you only see those type things in movies. And I mean, he was literally standing there holding a silver tray. And it felt, a little bit surreal, of course, but I just felt, wow, like, look where I'm at. And her home was absolutely gorgeous. So walking in, that the person that owns this home is clearly successful. And to me, in my mind, at the age of 22, clearly successful people work hard and get to where they are because they worked really hard and they're really good people. And that was how I viewed the world at 22. So I went into this room and I wait for Miss Maxwell to come out, and she comes out. She introduces herself. She's very polite, very kind, very well spoken. She starts to ask multiple questions about me. And every question that I answer, she had something to add to. So these were all emotional connections that she was making with me. I shared about my birthday being in December, the day after Christmas. She shared hers being on Christmas. We talked about how, we were going to celebrate we always talked about celebrating on different days growing up, and what it was like having a birthday such close to Christmas time. So every point we spoke about our dads. I spoke about mine. She spoke about hers. I spoke about me being from Ohio. She spoke about visiting Ohio and doing business in Ohio. So every single thing that I had to say, she had something to match it or compliment or something to within our discussion. So I felt very comfortable with her. We were getting along very well, and there became a feeling within me where, even though I'm 22 years old, here's this, she's older than me. She has this beautiful home. However, I started to relate so much to her that I felt, like her and I were on the same level. I no longer felt as though she were necessarily better than me. So I really, I felt good about being there, like I belonged. And there became a point where, of course, I'm there to give a massage. So that's what I do. I gave her a massage. I went through all my steps. I was a student, so I went through all my steps. Of course, I was hoping I was doing a really good job. Ghislaine fell asleep during the massage, so that indicated to me that she was quite relaxed. And I gently woke her up. The massage was over, and we continued to talk and discuss things. And she excused herself from the room, and I excused myself to go to the restroom. And I noticed a framed photo of her and ex-President Bill Clinton, and I thought, it just really, really reinforced the fact that I was in this home of this hugely successful woman. And at that point in time, I had already felt like, again, like a sense of trust in this woman. I felt like I belonged there. And I thought for sure that the job was mine. I thought that everything had gone so well that for sure I was going to get this position to be, Miss Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's traveling massage therapist. And towards the end of my time there at her home is when Ghislaine said to me, for the very first time throughout this entire process, from me sitting behind the desk at the school in California with the very first girl that approached me, to that moment sitting there, or standing there actually, in Ghislaine's home. And she said to me that you're going to go meet my partner, Jeffrey. And there was a moment where I thought, okay, who's Jeffrey? I have not heard of Jeffrey until now. And there was something that my dad had said to me before I went out there, because I was very excited about this position. So I was clearly sharing this with my family. And of course, I had to tell my school and that I was traveling and I was going to miss. And my dad had said to me, make sure you ask some questions, about who Miss Maxwell is. So when she said, you're going to go meet my partner, Jeffrey, and I said, so what do you and Jeffrey do? And she said to me that they were entrepreneurs, and that was her answer that she gave me. And at the time, I accepted that answer as a good answer, and I carried on. I didn't have any reason to believe that she was setting me up for harm. I trusted her. I thought I was in good hands. I didn't fear anything. And I felt comfortable and confident being in her home. And I felt comfortable and confident with her sending me off to meet with her partner. I thought that that was the second part of the interview. And I thought, I have this job for sure. Now, before I left, she had said to me, make sure you give Jeffrey what he wants. Jeffrey always gets what he wants. And I didn't know exactly what she meant by that. However, what I did was I normalized that as best I could. And I thought, okay, so this is a man who, has had a lot of professional massage. So I'm guessing he really knows what he wants. And so in that moment, yet again, just as I was sizing myself up with Sarah Kellen at the beach as she was taking a photo of me, I was sizing myself up again there at Ghislaine's home, hoping that I was going to be good enough, hoping that I was going to be the person chosen for this job. And I left and I went to Jeffrey's home at the time that I was supposed to arrive. And, I get there and yes, it's this big, beautiful door that you walk up to. And I was let inside and I wait for a bit and then I meet Jeffrey. And I waited for him to finish his dinner with him and the chef in the kitchen. It was the three of us. And we chatted for a bit, and Jeffrey and the chef were both polite, kind, charismatic, charming. And then shortly after Jeffrey finished his dinner, then, he said, let's go back to my office. And we go to the office and he shows me lots of framed photos of him and various powerful, famous people. And, in that office, there was a discussion. He asked me a lot of questions about myself, shared some things, asked me about scuba diving and, everything. Again, it was kind of a similar thing. He asked me if I liked scuba diving. I shared with him about my mom and dad scuba diving. And, so in that office, though, it didn't take too long before things went from being asked questions to some very inappropriate behavior on his part. And there was a time when he had asked for a foot massage. And so that was the beginning of the sexual abuse. And I won't get into details about that because I'm just not going to. However, so there was a lot of inappropriateness, even with his foot against my body. And there was something that was very strange that he had done as well, in grabbing my face and saying this statement. I know I can always trust a woman who shows her gums when she smiles. And the amount of overwhelm, of confusion, I didn't know what to do at the time. There was a lot of the time that I pretended like nothing was happening, like it just wasn't happening, and I was trying to get through it. I guess I didn't. I don't know. I don't. It was very confusing and very overwhelming, and very scary, and I didn't know what to do. And I left his office. And he came right behind me and he had grabbed me and I froze out of fear and he assaulted me again. And then I was able to make myself to the front door. And so I got to his front door of his home, and just before I went out, he said to me, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And, I felt it was very scary and threatening. And, I didn't know what he meant by that because I didn't know what else he wouldn't do because he had just assaulted me. And I was there for a job interview to be a traveling massage therapist. And again, the amount of confusion that I felt was just, overwhelming really doesn't describe it. It was just paralyzing almost. And off I went. I went out of his home that day or that evening actually. And I went back to where I was staying, and I stayed scared out of my mind in that apartment that night. And the next day I was to fly back to Los Angeles. And that's what I did. I got in the car, and I didn't know this, but there was another girl. There was a girl that gets into the car with me as well. And I hadn't realized that there was someone else there. And we exchanged names, and she asked me if I thought it was weird. And I just didn't answer her. And we rode in silence to the airport. And I went back to California, and I mean, I was entirely just completely devastated. And I didn't share what happened to me. And I read an email from Jeffrey Epstein's assistants. And, this email said, "Thank you for coming out, and we're still considering you for the position." And I'll never forget sitting down at my computer, looking at that email and reading it. And it was such one of the biggest, I guess just an additional mind twist. I'll say it politely. It was a big mind twist because they just acted like everything was so normal. And I had been sexually assaulted. And I was, again, massively, overwhelmingly confused and completely paralyzed by the shame of it all. So, but I did not answer. Yeah, I did not, I didn't respond to that email. And I continued to suffer in silence for a very long time. So,
Thank you so much, Teresa, for just sharing this much. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Thank you for just being transparent and open with us. And thank you for trusting us and this audience to just sit here with you in this moment. Thank you. Do you mind if we just go into some dialogue and just talk about not just your experience, but how this relates to other survivors? Is that okay if we?
Yeah, it is okay. It's more than okay. And because that's I think the most important part of this conversation is the process that I experience, which, is this very meticulous, very planned out, thought through pattern of grooming, which is something that so many people, a lot of children and teens are experiencing these days. And, there were 3 women that did exactly what they needed to do to gain my trust and to make me feel very safe and comfortable, to the point where I walked myself to the home of a predator. Now, that is so hugely important of a concept to grasp, because there wasn't a van that pulled up and kidnapped me and took me to his home. I wasn't chained I wasn't any of those things. I walked myself there, and I knocked on the door and I walked inside his home, and so the point to that is, again, how much I trusted these women that did exactly, their goal was to get me exactly to that point of trust, of befriending me. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing with children online, so much online, and then certainly in real life as well. So this process of grooming is so important for kids to know about, teenagers to know about, parents to know about, community members to know about, community leaders, everyone in the community, whether you're a librarian, whether you're a gas station worker, a bus driver, a doctor, a police officer, every member and leader of the community, parent, aunt, uncle, cousin, every single person needs to know what grooming looks like, so that they can identify if it's potentially happening to a loved one. And of course, not only knowing, being able to identify that it's actually happening, but what to do if it is.
Wow. Drew, did you want to jump in at all?
Yeah, just again, thank you so much for sharing your story, and definitely thank you for um, just sharing like about the grooming process. Because, like you said, I think a lot of times we look at the van, the kidnapping, we look at the movie Taken, or we even
Mm-hmm.
look at like distractions in parking lots. That if there's something near your car, something on your car, and those are the stories that we hear. But with yours, like you said, it was three women, and they were
Mm-hmm.
so like smart in the way they did it. That can you also talk about like who was vulnerable for this? Like, is there a certain uh, group of people that are vulnerable to trafficking, to exploitation?
Well, at this point in time, any child on a computer is vulnerable, and there are groups of individuals that are at an increased risk. And while it's very important to understand that there is no socioeconomic discrimination, meaning what it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what neighborhood that you live in, it's happening everywhere. However, it is more prevalent as far as vulnerabilities when it comes to more impoverished communities, and certainly children with histories of childhood sexual abuse and exploitation. Um, One of the biggest things with that vulnerability is, boundaries. If you're a victim, a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, you don't understand or learn about boundaries as a kid, because every single boundary was completely violated. And there are so many children. I mean, as we know statistically, at least 1 in 4 girls and at least 1 in 6 boys are sexually assaulted. And so that really leaves a lot of people
Mm.
with that very strong vulnerability just to start with. And very much the last couple of years, with online activity increasing at minimum 50%, I believe in the ages of like 6 to 12, and living through the pandemic and everything going online, predatory at least 98%. And these children are dealing with, we've seen such big declines in mental health. So you have these kids that are already struggling emotionally and mentally. They're spending so much time in front of a screen. And there are so many predators out there that know this and that are targeting these kids. And so online is one of the greatest, or the internet and the online exploitation is one of our greatest, I'd say, battles that we are facing currently. Um, Parents need to know where their kids are at online. Just like, you know, we would not send our child out to, let's just say, a dark alley, where there are 10 strangers there. We would not do that. However, essentially, when a child is in a chat room or a place that's not moderated, or there aren't safety standards in place, these strangers are essentially right there with your child. It's not really any different. I think parents feel this false sense of safety and security because their child's not actually out in a dark alley. However, these strangers, these predators are actually in your home through the internet, through online chats and various ways of communication. And when, again, our children are faced with such challenges that have never, ever been, our children these days have never been faced. We've never, as a society, been faced with these challenges. And the mental health decline that's happened in the last couple of years, especially, and suicide rate amongst young girls has increased significantly. And these children are so much more vulnerable. These predators are very clever, and they befriend them, they gain their trust, and then they begin to isolate them. And once they've successfully gained their trust and successfully isolated them, then they're able to, in a sense, control them, whether it's asking for photos, and they send a photo and then they want more photos, and this predator is taking these photos and uploading them to who knows where, what site, and exploiting this child. And then this child doesn't want to do it anymore, so they're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. But the predator is then becoming controlling and abusive and wants to, target their family if they don't do what they're told. I mean, and that's just one way that it happens. There's other ways. There are, children, teens leaving their home at night thinking that they're meeting their new best friend, and they're not. They're meeting a predator. So online is, you have to know where your kids are. You have to monitor their online activity. We get in a car, we put a seatbelt on. It should really be that fundamental. It should be that basic to where we know where our children are online, because that's just the world that we're living in currently. We have to do these things.
Drew, did you have any other questions that you wanted to throw out?
Yeah, so I'd love to hear what you're doing now, because you put that your lifetime, your purpose now is education, awareness, and prevention, which you pretty much just gave now. Thank you so much, because I'm sure there's so many parents that are listening to this or that will listen to this because we'll put this out. And so I'm sure now they're encouraged and they're probably going to have conversations with their kids, but would love to hear like what you're doing now, so we can end this on a good note, on a positive note, to see, almost like how we can support you and what you're doing now.
Sure. So it is a purpose that I feel has been written on my heart and in my life. And, I certainly aim to take everything that I've experienced and the knowledge that I've gained along the way. And I work with various organizations, some in Florida, some in Texas, some in California, and some lots of different places around the nation. And I do, I speak and talk about prevention and again, awareness. And I'm a survivor mentor as well. And so, and again, being a mom to my own children is very important, and teaching them how to protect themselves. And so I will always, continue to take what I have gone through and really kind of leverage that, that pain into purpose. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the best that I can to be real loud and hopefully encourage other survivors to come forward as well. I know that's very important, because the silence, that so many of us have suffered and continue to this moment are suffering, that silence, that for those that have not been able to come forward just yet, I really hope that they feel encouraged to step forward and take a piece of their power back. Because from personal experience, as hard as it has been, especially at first, um, there's a lot of power to be taken back, not being, not living under that rule of silence anymore.
Wow, that's great. So I'm going to just bring a couple of questions to you. So one of the ladies on the live is very active in this fight. Her name is Dakota Fitzgerald, and she had a couple of questions that she wanted to ask. And so I'm just gonna read them, and whatever level you're comfortable answering, just feel free. So the first one she asked was, what's the most important policy that you would like our legislators to focus on to more effectively combat human trafficking?
Well, the Earn It Act is so important. That would be an amendment to Section 230, which is basically a clause that big tech likes to hide under and proclaim immunity from any kind of accountability when it comes to online exploitation. So that would be my first and top choice.
That's great. And we will throw a link to the Earn It Act. For those of you that don't know what that is, we'll put a link in there so you guys can learn more about it. And it's going before Congress again. They've made some updates to it, so it'd be a really great time to let your voice be heard to our legislators and get that passed. So we'll throw a link in there as soon as we grab that. The other question that Dakota had for you, Teresa, was this. She said, how has the Maxwell trial impacted your experience?
Well, it's been an interesting twist in that trial where we're at currently is as there may be a retrial. So, well, the verdict was hugely significant for me and for many of the other survivors, some of which I'm quite close with. So that verdict was very significant. And because the pending legal issues, and that's about as much as I am able to say right now.
No, totally understand. That completely understand. And then her last question was this, and I think maybe at least one of the best questions we can ask to you is, what can we do for you?
Well, what everyone can do for me is, go out as much as you can or feel driven to and speak to your community, speak to children, speak to anyone that's going to take a moment to listen to what we can do to protect, our youth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wouldn't, at Switch, we wouldn't be doing ourselves any justice if we didn't just throw this out there that we are here to see this problem gone as much as it can be gone. So I am just going to drop this in the comments, the link to our website to take action. Would love to see you involved if you're not already. Many watching this are volunteers, they're involved, and in some way are doing something. But for those of you that are not, please, we just ask that you would take a moment to figure out how you can connect your heart to this issue, because it really isn't just a not my child issue, because every child can be impacted by this. And many, many, many children, some say 300,000 in America are impacted by this right now. And so we really just want to encourage you, please take a step of action. You can go to our website. The link is in the comments there, and do what you can. And I will throw this out to Dakota's question. What we can do for Teresa is in the anti-trafficking community, we always want to honor every survivor voice. Many of the comments here have been, thank you for sharing. Your voice matters. your bravery, your courage, and that is absolutely 100% true, and we have to honor that. And one of the ways that we Switch want to honor that is just to give financially into Teresa's life. And so I'm going to drop a link into the comments, and if you feel like helping us do that, we're going to do that whether you can or not, and that's okay. But if you want to just help us to bless Teresa and just to really thank her for being involved in this and letting her voice be heard, we would greatly appreciate anything that you can do to this. So I'm going to just put that link also in there. It's a really long link, but all you have to do is click on it and help us to be a blessing to Teresa, because, like everyone has said, your courage, your bravery, your voice shatters the darkness, Teresa, and that's what we're here to do. I was just thinking about this the other day. In the Bible, there's this verse, Genesis 1:3. God says, "Let there be light," and there was light, and it was shining in the darkness. How much more is there for us to do except to go and speak light into these places of darkness? And if each of us uses our voice, we can see this thing tremendously crippled and bring healing to so many more people whose voices aren't being heard. But every victim has a voice, and we want to see them have their voice and become survivors and become more than that, but thriving. And so I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, genuinely, Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you for being willing to join us and share again. I know you've been doing a lot of this lately, but we really appreciate it. And if it can just help one mom, one child to be set free, to be educated, to bring prevention, then we have done something amazing and powerful, and your voice has accomplished so much. So thank you. Do you have any final comments, or Drew, do you guys have any last things before we wrap this up?
Well, I'll say, thank you to thank you to you both, and thank you for everyone that's watched or will watch. And I stand alongside each of you strong men, and I appreciate you both for the work that you're doing and that you will continue to do. I think it's so important for men to be more involved and to take a stand against sexual exploitation. And I hope one of the things that I hope for the future of this movement is for more men to stand up and to refuse to back down, and to teach our youth, especially our young boys, the value of humanity, the value of life, the value of women, the value of their peers, girls. And I would love to see more programs, more of a movement that initiates, again, the demonstration of what it's like to grow up with the perception of respect for everyone on this earth, and not to objectify anyone on this earth, and what it means to care about everyone, because human trafficking is a matter of humanity.
Yes.
It's a basic human right to be safe. And I would love to see more men take a stand and again, share and be that example of what it means.
Absolutely.
What it means. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Drew.
echo everything Teresa said, and I'm not even going to add anything to it because I think she said it perfectly. So thank you so much, Teresa.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Teresa, for joining us, and Drew, thank you for being here, and everybody else who's been a part. Just really, really value and appreciate your time to join us in this conversation. Lots of great comments. Again, if any of you wants to get involved, you can go to the link in there. If anyone wants to help give towards Teresa and helping us to bless her, you can go to that link in there. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up now. And as soon as it's done, Facebook's going to do its thing. And in about 5 or 10 minutes, for those of you that want to, you'll be able to share this. We hope you do, because we want as many people as possible to see this and be aware of what's going on. And more than anything, to be enlightened and to know that they can make a difference in this, because it's not hopeless. It's hard and it's dark, but we can bring light and we can bring hope to people who are feeling helpless and hopeless. So let's do that together and just be a community of love that brings hope to those around us. So again, thank you, Teresa, and everybody else. Just thank you so much. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you again, because we're going to do this very, very soon.